All righty. Welcome. I am Heather Pierce Campbell, the Legal Website Warrior. I'm an attorney and legal coach based here in Seattle, Washington, serving online information entrepreneurs throughout the US and the world. Welcome to today's episode of Guts, Grit, and Great Business. I am so excited to welcome my friend Divian. Divian Mistry, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I'm really excited.
Good to have you here. I'm really looking forward to this. I have been looking forward to this. You and I connected, gosh, probably a few weeks ago now. But Divian and I are in a mastermind together, and he is the creator of headache-free websites. And so we're going to get into a bunch of website marketing, branding stuff today. But for those of you that don't know Divian, Divian is a marketing expert for personal brands who want to grow their business using proven, time-tested strategies. After starting his first business at age 14, he became known as the Ticket Master at university, has helped clients create 6 months of income within just 3 weeks, tripled event ticket sales within 24 hours, and quadrupled event registrations within 1 month. He raised 5,000 pounds for the Make-A-Wish Foundation at a charity event he hosted with keynote speaker Kevin Green from the TV show The Secret Millionaire. And he's been featured in 2 business books. Welcome, Divian. So excited to connect.
Yeah, this is really cool. I'm really grateful that I'm able to be on here.
Yeah, well, you're talking to the right audience, right? So a lot of the vast majority of folks that I serve are expert-based businesses, many of whom are really building personal brands or have some element of personal brand, involved in even the build out of their business. So it's, it's a unique crowd, and it's my very favorite crowd to serve. And all of these folks have online based businesses, right? So this is a really important conversation because one of the very first places that I often start with my clients is looking at what I call their home base or their online hub, right? Often the cornerstone of their business. So we need people like you to help us really figure out how to do this right, because I think so many people get it wrong.
Yeah, so I couldn't agree with you more. There's I think in this online space where you are the brand, there's something that occurs which doesn't always occur with businesses where you are not the brand, and the way you sell is different as well, because you're selling you to some level and your expertise. And what's really interesting is I found this pattern, and this is usually where the challenges or I don't really like using the word mistakes, but the challenges set in that because you're the brand, you often end up mixing up your value and your self-worth, and then your marketing goes off, and then everything else goes off. And then you wonder why you don't get sales, and you wonder why it's not working, but it's working for everyone else. And it causes a lot of challenges, and it causes a lot of disruption in just being able to get clients and being clear.
Well, and that's such a big conversation around, somebody's value and self-worth, right? Being tied up in a personal brand. It's so true. And reminds me of a conversation I had with another guest on the podcast who also, she's not in the website space, but in kind of the business coaching space of people building personal brands. And a huge part of our conversation was around that, right? This personal journey that we have in the build out of our business, and how much opportunity there is for personal development inside of the business journey. So I'd love to know a little bit more about your journey, about how you got started, about how you became interested in this area. Will you share with us a little bit about your roots?
Yeah, so so the first website I ever built, I was 13 years old, and I taught myself how to code HTML, JavaScript, PHP, MySQL, and CSS. And I coded the thing. Back then, you had to type words out and in a little notepad file and upload it and hope that you type the right thing in to make it work. And probably the biggest learning curve at that point was me and my friends played this online text-based role play game. So it was like you're a person and you go into the forest and you find a sword and a shield and you got money and then you upgrade and join a clan and have battles and all that kind of stuff. So we're playing this game called Dragon Swords roleplay game. DSRPG was the URL. And the owner shut it down one day. There was like 2,000 members. And my friend, somehow, I don't actually know to this day how he got it, but he got all the source code for that website. So we started up dsrpg2.co.uk. So that like the version 2 of it, or maybe it was .com, I don't know, whichever. And so then, because I'd already learned how to build some websites, I decided to become the head coder and start coding new features and stuff like that at the age of 13 on dial-up internet. And I remember one day, came home from school and the website wasn't working, and I spent 6 hours looking for a colon that should have been a semicolon. And I actually then, from that day, decided that I probably should spend more time with people than doing this. So I quit. And then like a month later, my mate got £2,000 worth of donations, which at the age of 13, you're literally a millionaire with £2,000, right?
Right.
So I could have had a 50% of that, but quit a little bit early. But that was kind of the very start of the journey. And then over the years, I've run many different little ventures here and there and stuff like that. And then my previous business was in property, and I was training people in property. So we made a few mistakes, cost us I'm going to say small amount of money. It wasn't a small amount of money. And I was already doing this on the side. So I decided to kind of shut that down and focus on this. And plus, what I love about this business is I really feel this deep calling to help the people who help people. And this enables me to really help them in a way which they need help, with an expertise that not many people, there might be a lot of people out there who can build websites, but not a lot of people can combine the people skills, building websites, and the marketing skills together into one to really help you to get the right thing that you need.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a synopsis. Otherwise, we'd be here for the whole hour just talking about my journey to this point. And
No,
the
I like
15,
it.
20 different ventures I've had in the past.
Right. I get it. No, I love the ones that you shared. And yeah, even the early stories of figuring out that space, being able to build it again, like that had to feel like quite an accomplishment. And I just am so enamored with the way that you just described, why you do your work, loving to help people that help people, right? And it's the same affection that I feel towards my clients as well. Like these are folks that need to build a thriving business, a thriving small business, right? They're not building the next Google, most of them, because they're building a business that they want to work in, like deliver a service through, deliver information through, in order to achieve or partly fulfill their personal mission here in their life, right? And so it's a really special group of people. And that's how I feel about them as well. Could you get into some of the nuances? Because you mentioned one briefly, right? About those who are building personal brands. Yeah. What distinguishes them a little bit from, other types of business that are building out a website, and some of the ways that you help folks in that space address some of those issues?
Sure. So the biggest difference, I kind of touched upon it, the difference between value and your self-worth. So I want to touch on that a little bit, because this is probably the biggest thing that holds any online personal brand back, is that not being able to differentiate the difference between the two. And this is also part of my calling, my mission in life is people have infinite self-worth. You have infinite self-worth. I have infinite self-worth. Anybody listening to this does. And you could sit on your butt for the rest of your life and you're still worthy and you're still loved and you're still amazing. And you still have huge potential beyond anything you could ever imagine. And then there's the value. And the value is the stuff that you know and that you can help people with. And what happens if people mesh these two together, and then to demonstrate their value, what most people do is go, I can do this, and 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 I can do this. and they can do everything for everybody, and they probably can. You know, as entrepreneurs, we're multi-passionate. I'm yet to meet an entrepreneur who's not multi-passionate. Like, I don't think it exists, right? And so,
True.
you know, can I solve more problems with the website? 100%. I can solve loads of problems, but that's the challenge. Is like we're presenting all this stuff going, because what happens is you put yourself into a niche, or for you Americans, niche, and then somebody says no to you, and what happens is people go, oh, that's about me,
Yeah.
and that's yourself, and then you're bringing your self-worth in, and then instead of going, okay, they said no, maybe they're the wrong client, maybe the offer needs changing, maybe the price needs changing, maybe I need to market in a different way, maybe they didn't see the value because I didn't share it, or maybe they're just the wrong person.
Yeah.
And so then what we do is go, oh, maybe we need to go over here and do this thing or this thing or this thing, and then you have this, like, you know, I've done a lot of homepage reviews, and I remember one of them, they're like a coach who like does tapping, and does a couple of other things. I can't, Reiki and something else. I can't remember exactly what. And on their website, they were like, I can solve this problem, this one, da, 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 da. And I went to them and I said, here's the thing, is what you're actually selling is certainty of the outcomes. I was in the copy, I read this one line that said, I can create permanent change. And now legally, I don't know if they can claim to do that. That's your ballpark. So next time I come across it, I'll send them to you and be like, yo,
Right, go over there.
But I said, if you can say them words, then that's actually what you're selling, because you want to serve all these different people, and that's what you're selling. And I said, took the example of one of the things that I do is help people with weight loss. So all right, so that's the self-worth value conversation. Here's another conversation that people kind of get confused or don't quite get as clear as they could, is when they're putting their website together and their lead magnet and all the stuff around their website, they don't always consider where somebody's at in their journey. So they might have the right target audience, but they don't consider where they're at. So for example, this person had, they help people lose weight. Now, here's the thing. If you're helping people lose weight, but you're using tapping and coaching and other modalities to do that, well, that's not the first thing I think of when I'm thinking of losing weight. I think of going to the gym. I personally love going to the gym. Some people hate it. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Or eating healthily, which most people, including myself, don't necessarily want to do. and really, that you need to move and you need to change what you eat. And they're the things you think of. You know, maybe you go to Weight Watchers or something like that. But you're not going to think of hiring someone to do tapping therapy with you at the beginning of your journey. So if you've got a lead magnet that says, that talks to people at the start of their journey, when you're doing something like that, you're hitting them at the wrong point. Yeah. Because at that point, they probably ain't going to hire you. They're going to try every single thing in the book and almost give up. And then they go, oh, that's different. So the lead magnet needs to speak to them at that point where they feel frustrated. They've tried everything, but they haven't tried this one thing over here. And that's another. So that's one of the things that you've got to be clear about is who's your avatar, who's the person you're speaking to. So I speak to people who are coaches, but where are they at? And most of the time I'm speaking to people where, and people we work with, where it's not that they're not starting out because that they're not the people we serve. They're further down the line. You know, maybe they've built a business and they've got revenue coming in, and they're at a stage where they want to, they're having change in their business. So they've done a load of stuff and they managed to get a load of business in, and they're successful and they're happy, they're able to sell. But now they want even more clarity to their audience, and it's been a number of years. And so that's where we position ourselves, is actually, how do we up level you from there to help you accelerate, not to get started. So I think that's the second thing I'd say, is that conversation around when you're building your website, who are you building it for, and what stage are they at in their journey? And are you speaking to them at that specific stage, or are you speaking to them at the wrong stage?
Oh, it's a huge one. And it's, you know, you think about your own buying experiences, especially if you're looking for somebody to solve a really specific problem, right? The level of confidence you have when you land on a site like that, that's like, oh, we do ABC, XYZ versus, you know, I'm the specialist. It's like in my own journey recently, like having to connect with somebody who is specifically a specialist around thyroid and women's hormone health, right? Very different than connecting with a naturopathic doctor that knows a lot about general health and like how to keep most people healthy. Two, you know, they could even both be naturopathic doctors, but very different focus and very different language being used in their marketing. And the level of confidence it instills when you connect with somebody who's giving you the message of knowing right where you are in your journey is huge.
Yeah, because if you take the two examples you gave,
Hmm.
they could both be equally as qualified to help you.
Right.
But because the person who talks about your challenge might be thyroid related and women's health related, if they talk to that audience and exactly where they're at, well, you're going to naturally gravitate towards that, and want to hire them for that. You know, if you were the just the general legal person, people be like, okay, cool, you're just another lawyer.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
there's tens of thousands of them out there. Just pick one, you know?
totally. And the reality is I do a wide variety of things for my particular clients, but you even look at my branding, you know, legal website warrior. And when people come to me initially and say, what do you do? Right? I protect online brands and online businesses of information entrepreneurs. And that has been enough to land me some very big clients in the space. I don't have this long list of other things that I talk about. They're like, oh, you protect an online business? Like, well, that's what I have, right? Even though they actually have a bunch of offline components as well. It's just that I know that for so many of them, that's the focus. And that's where some of their initial problems show up in their business, right? So it was one of the best things that I did in my journey when I launched my second business was just around that branding piece of speaking to one specific problem had by like a very specific type of client.
Yeah, and I think that's if I was to say what's the biggest challenge that people have online is in personal brands. And the question you asked is actually haven't answered the question you asked yet. I just realized. But the biggest challenge is clarity. And
Yeah.
I'm going to segue this and relate this into the question you asked, which is how does it differ from a business that doesn't have a personal brand? Well, if I'm selling a mouse, you know, that's the mouse. My website might be called mouse, you know, mouse for sale, or you know, I sell mice from my or whatever. Do you know
Right.
that was a rubbish
I get
example?
it.
I sell pens. I sell pens. And so it's very obvious what you sell. You sell pens. And so that component is already decided for you because you've decided based on what you're selling. And so if I was to say what's the benefit of having a pen generally, where you can write stuff with it, I might talk about the amount of ink that's inside it, how long it lasts, how it holds, what it's made out of, etc. Right? And the size of it, etc. And they might be components that me as a buyer, I've already got them clear in my head. I want a pen that's, you know, a particular size. I mean, I love this is actually one of my clients' pens. But I love these ones that for some reason that I
They
just
just
love them.
feel
So
comfortable. Yeah.
yeah, so Saj, if you see this, I've got a ton of them in my bag. Sorry, not sorry, but I love these
Pen thief.
pens.
I'm talking to a pen thief. Hilarious. You're the reason why all the businesses have to tie strings to the pen, like at the front desk, right?
Yes, yes.
Put a big flower on the end. I know. I'm laughing because I love pens and I really love like a good writing utensil. I'm holding up this really fat chubby one, right, that's covered in rubber. And this is what I actually used to write the bar exam with many years ago. And I had to write like, I don't know, 50 or 60 11 like no, like long form legal size papers, right? Because it was all handwritten essay.
Wow.
I know, over the course of 3 days, it was nonstop writing, like
Wow.
8 hours a day. Even with a pen like this that I specifically hunted out to be like the most comfortable thing I could write with, I lost the feeling in my thumb for 6 months after that exam, like because I put so much pressure on the nerve. Anyways, I love a good pen, but I get it. What you're saying is that companies that are selling a product, a widget, even a software, right? There's already clarity built into what it is, where it fits in the marketplace. I think it's, you still have to be clever. You still have to be smart about what you're doing, but it is very different than a personal brand,
Mm.
right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's where people get confused, is because they and I'm not poo-pooing anybody in particular here because I don't know who teaches this stuff. But there are some times where you see Facebook profiles and they're like, I do this for this type of person without this and with that, so that they can do this and they can do that. And I'm like, you're just so unreferable at this point. Like, so right at the beginning, the simplest thing to do is, what do you do and who do you do it for? And just keep it really broad, because in reality, most coaches don't have enough leads and enough sales.
Oh, you're
Most
saying
people want more,
at the beginning of the journey.
even further down the line, because you want to capture that attention, right? If I do this for this person, well, just keep it really simple. I can capture the attention of them people. And then through looking at my marketing or my website, you're going to start to understand specifically whether you resonate with me or not, and whether it's the specific problem you're trying to solve, or not. Because most people, when they're looking to solve a problem, they're looking for a coach, they're going to type in business coach. They're not going to type in cash flow business coach for people with businesses between 5 million and 10 million. That's not what they type in. They do business coach, and then they look for coaches and then talk about the problem and try, or spiritual coach, but they don't go, most people don't go so granular, at least not at the start.
Yeah.
So that's probably the quickest way that helps people rattle down like the clarity for their audience, whether at the start, whether they're further down the line. That's the biggest thing that most people can shift. Be really simple. And there's this YouTube channel that I love watching. This woman called Cody, and I can't remember her surname, but she's in America, and she talks about boring businesses. And I absolutely love this channel because she just talks about boring businesses, right? Like laundromats and like car washes and stuff like that. Now, I'm not saying coaching is boring; it's definitely not. But the reason these businesses work is because they're simple. And that simplicity, I've seen the pattern, they're always so simple. And it's that simplicity and being able to communicate really simply what you do that gets you the leads. Then you can have the conversation and decide whether they're the right client or not. But like that's the biggest thing that differentiates between the personal brands and the product brands, that it's easy to differentiate here that I sell pens, and it's hard because we put our self-worth into it, or we get FOMO, but if I only do that, then I won't be doing this.
Yeah.
And then our message gets really confusing.
Yes. Well, I hear you on the simplicity. What do you say to the people? Maybe this is a different question that, or a different issue, that are saying, you can't speak to a broad audience. You can't, like, maybe that's too simple because you need to be talking specifically to a very specific person with a specific problem so that they know you're for them.
So, sorry, repeat the question.
When
what's
you
my
said,
opinion on that?
yeah, so what I heard you say around like the business coach, right? I'm a business coach who helps whatever. And what you said was keep it really broad. So my question really was like, what do you say to the people that are like, if you serve everybody, you serve nobody?
Good question.
Right, because you hear
So,
that a lot in the branding and messaging marketplace, right?
so I think there is a time and a place for you to get more specific, but not too specific. Because I guess what I'm referring to is I've seen people's Facebook profiles or LinkedIn profiles where they're like, I do this for this person who has this and this and this and this. And the list is so long.
Oh, that it's a
What it
long
does,
list. Got it.
it makes you unreferable.
So, okay, so you're making the point then. It's overbroad because the list is so long versus being very specific.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to be very specific, but also it depends on, again, it comes back to what stage of business are you at. If you're right at the start, you want to be very broad, because I don't know anybody who's set up and run a business really successfully who hasn't iterated like a gazillion times through that
Oh,
process.
yes, this is true. And I think what can often surprise people is they launch their business thinking, or a new program thinking, I'm going to serve these specific types of clients, but then ultimately who shows up is quite a bit different than who they thought, right? So again, it forces an iteration, because who actually ends up being attracted to that messaging or that service or that offer is different than what they thought in their mind, the results would be. So yeah, I think that it definitely is an evolution.
100%. And then when you become a bigger business where you're like, you know what, I am confident enough that I can bring in more than enough business,
Mhm.
and when your problem, and I work with businesses like this where they're usually at the mid to late six figures, seven figures kind of range, they get to a point where they can't handle all of the inquiries coming in, so they hire someone in their team to do that, and then they're handling it, but it's using a lot of time because there's a lot of inquiries where that person's not actually intending on buying. They just want more information. That's the point at which you go, okay, now I need to be like, get more specific about what I do, because I don't want to use my resources for people who aren't a good fit.
Or a fit. Oh, this is such an important point. Yes. Once you have like more leads than you can handle, and you recognize they're not all the right fit, right? Having an extra filtration process or something else to determine who exactly needs to be filtered that way versus this way into our funnel, into our business.
Yeah, 100%. So that's the point I would say to people. Yeah, get. So maybe you're like a health coach. You start with a female health coach, right? That's pretty broad. But you start getting clients, and then you're like, actually, now I need to be a female health coach for people with thyroid specifically, because I've got so many clients there, getting so many referrals there. And then you can start to add further layers of filtration there. You could say, I only work with women over this age, or I only work in this specific geographical area, or people who have these kind of jobs, or but
Totally.
yeah, it depends on what stage you're at. If you're like, you know what, I've got more business than I can handle, then yeah, you got to get more specific.
Yeah, good problem to have, by the way. Let's dig in, because I'm sure you've got some pointers on this. Things that people do wrong in talking about the online hub, right? The home real estate in the online space. Things that people do wrong from whether it's a design perspective, a client journey perspective, a structural perspective, right? Can you talk to us about some of the stuff that you see and that you fix when it comes to websites?
100%. So we've spoken about the first one, which is making sure you're speaking to your right target audience and have the right copy on the page. The second one I'd say is people we all over themselves. They go, we do this, we do that, we. And then I was actually saying this to a client the other day, and they burst out laughing. They're like, that's just hilarious. But that's the truth, is if you're going, it could be it doesn't have to be
right.
I do this, I do that. It's like, well, how does that relate to the person? So that's a big mistake that people make. And you can easily flip that on its head, because, for example, yourself, you've got certain qualifications doing what you're doing, right? And so you can have a section where you talk about you, but you talk about in the context of why that's important for them,
right?
How that helps them, not just, hey, I met a doctor and I've never seen so many letters and qualifications like ever in my life on their website. I was like, this is ridiculous. And I said, that's a problem though. Like, you're creating credibility, but I don't have a clue what any of that means.
Right.
Like,
How is
for
it
me.
relevant to me? Yeah.
So I think that's the other thing is, don't we all over yourself, make it relevant for the person. And I'd say that the third thing, and these, by the way, these all interconnect. There's that you can't fix one and not fix the other. You have to fix all of this at the same time. I'd say the third thing is the flow. And this kind of relates to the weeing all over yourself. But most people prioritizing the flow of especially your homepage, just completely like most people just do it in the wrong order, and they don't. I think it's because they probably just don't know what they're doing. There's nothing wrong with that, but it is one of the biggest mistakes. The home page needs to be very focused so that people can get what they need out of that. And so sometimes I see home pages where there's just so much stuff, my brain doesn't know where to look. So simple works better, like your website's quite simple, it's focused. So each section focuses on stuff. And so, you can consume that, and you want to move on to the next step. And then also consider in that flow, considering how you can build like authority with people. So I personally love to, when I work with clients, we love to make sure there's one lead magnet. So it's super clear, speaking to the right person. And we repeat that several times on the home page, because usually you want people to opt into something, whether it's a phone call or whether it's a downloadable lead magnet or a webinar, whatever. There's usually one thing you want them to do. And then it kind of flows down. And the next flow is, well, if they've not done that, what are they thinking? But they have scrolled. So they are interested. So then we want to create some credibility. So we use logos and stuff that shows our credibility. And then we flow into the third part, which is what I like to call authority building content. And this is what most people don't do. Probably the biggest thing you could do is have some authority building content. A lot of the clients that I tend to work with are usually spiritual on some level. And trust in that marketplace is like, here's the floor. It's like way down there. It's in the basement.
Interesting. Trust, you mean from a consumer perspective? Yeah.
Yeah. From a potential buyer's perspective, or even, and they're so low that even the lead magnet itself, they might not download it straight away. So I love to have this authority building content. It's completely free content that shares case studies and stories and information that helps people to connect with you and then want to take the next step. And so that and there's many other things that we add in there as well. But that flow, often people just don't get that. And the other thing I've seen is where you have a website and that bit above the fold, so that's the stuff that loads without you scrolling, is just like so empty. You're like, what am I looking at?
Yeah.
Like, what am I looking at? I don't know what, like, is this a website or is it just a blank page? And so it's prioritizing the wrong things. And I'd say that the biggest tip I can help people with is when people come to the website for the first time, they don't care about you.
Right. They've got a problem.
They've got a problem they want to fix. They don't care. You don't need to put your logo as the biggest thing on the screen. You don't need to put your image as the biggest thing. You need to put the thing that solves their problem as the most central thing, so that they're most likely to take action on that. And there's a lot of people who don't do that. There's a lot of people who put that way down here and, way down the page. And so, yeah, I'd say that there are three things is get the right target audience, the right copy. Don't wheel all over yourself, and have the right flow so that they can take action quickly and build, keep it simple and build that relationship.
When you're doing this work for clients, right? Because you're helping them kind of suss this stuff out, right? A lot of this, I don't think, comes naturally to people. For the most part, we're all too close to our work, right? We're too close to ourselves. We just don't see things clearly from the perspective of of even, what might make us unique in the marketplace, or, what somebody else sees when they show up that either stands out or does not stand out enough about what we do, right? So when you are helping people go through this process, is there, like, I'd be curious, like, what types of questions you are asking your clients that help pull this stuff out, right? I'd love for listeners to be able to hear, like, what should I be focusing on that maybe I don't see yet about my own business?
You want the secret sauce.
The secret sauce. Yeah, I mean, still doesn't mean people are going to
Yeah.
be able to do it themselves,
Yeah.
right?
No, more than happy to share.
Yeah.
So the first question I usually ask is very simply, who do you serve and how do you serve them? And if they're not clear, they'll give me some mumbo jumbo answer, and they'll go off
Or
into
too long.
one or two things. It'll be too long, or they will talk about the logistics.
Yeah.
So it's
About
like
the
a
airplane, right, versus the destination. Yes.
Yeah, so they'll be like, it's a 6-week program and it's delivered online, and right, that's really cool. So then I start delving into so another question I then ask is give me an example of a client that the client you absolutely love serving. Like, who's your best client? Just talk to me about how you serve them, what problem, just talk to me about the conversation and what problem that you solve for them, and give me the story. And usually that starts to like unveil the juicy stuff.
Yeah.
If that doesn't, the next question I ask, and I learned this one actually probably about a year ago, which was interesting. And this one's quite an interesting one because I didn't think this would get answers that it does get, is why usually the question is like, why do you do what you do? Like, why did you even start a business? And not, instead of focusing on what do you enjoy, just why did you start a business? Which is interesting because like how does that get you to the point of who that clarity? But usually people ramble on and then they get that clarity from that question. So they're the 3 questions, but I'd say there's one other component, that the super secret sauce, the super secret ingredient, which is actually very difficult to emulate yourself. But one of the things that I'm very good at is holding like an emotional space for people. So when they're answering these questions, it really, really helps their heart just drop all them guards and just be really real with me. And that when that happens, and you can call it whatever you want, universe, energy, spirit, God, broccoli, whatever you want to call it. That then allows you to talk to your intuition or your higher self or God or whatever you want to call it, and really start to speak the truth of why you're in business and who you want to serve and how you want to serve them. And that bit is, I struggle to do that for myself. I have to go to other people to do that.
Yeah.
But that bit, even if it's a friend, even if it's not somebody like me who builds a website and does that, even if it's just a friend, that component, I think, is almost compulsory. But sometimes you'll have days where you're in that space by yourself, and you can then utilize that and use these questions and get them answers. But yeah, I'd say that is one component that's super important to be able to get really clear. Because really, I'm not talking, I don't know about you, but I'm not the type of person who wants to work with the ROI kind of business people. Like, that doesn't resonate with me. I want to work with people who want to make an impact. And yes, they want to make a load of money as well.
Yeah.
But the impact is, they understand the impact is so important to get the money coming in, not just sell anybody and everything.
Oh, that's right. No, and I know whether it's the right term or not, right? It's I call it kind of the bro marketer crowd that are all about clicks and measuring every, and again, it's not to say that measuring stuff in your business is not a good idea. Of course it's a good idea, but when it's all about like the conversion and the clicks, like I know folks in the industry whose business model is based on Facebook ads And their goal is to optimize for everybody, get as many people inside of these kind of churn and burn type programs, but their refund rate is like 50%.
Yeah,
Right.
through the roof.
And I'm so clear that that's not who I'm here to serve. Right. I am here to help the folks that are very clear on their mission, that have a really high sense of ethics. Right. They need support building a business because they're so clear on their mission and like what role they play in it. Right. We have to surround ourselves with good people to help us build out anything. And so it's, but fundamentally, it's more challenging for some of the what I call even micro businesses to get that support, right? To connect with the right people. And even what you talked about as far as confidence being really low, like trust being really low, even in the world of clients that you work with, I think in the online business space, generally that can happen because so many people do get hoodwinked along the way, right? They end up signing up for like pretty massive services or support that to them represents a really big payment from their business and really not getting the results or the support that they needed.
Yeah, and I think the industry, this is the other thing, the industry that we speak to is also very different to other industries.
Mm-hmm.
I think we spoke about this when we connected a few weeks ago. It's very different, and people can draw. People are using fear. The bro marketers. I've actually got. I do a weekly live stream on Facebook called the On Purpose Marketing Show, and my tagline is "Throw out the bro and welcome in the flow marketing."
Oh, I love it. The On Purpose Marketing Show. We'll have to share links over to that as well. It's a
and
great
so
name.
and so the thing is that in this world, these bro marketers have come in, and I do think it's changing. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's starting to change, but these bro marketers have come in and they use fear-based marketing
Yes.
to attract
Yes.
people, and you don't need to. You just use love-based marketing, flow marketing, and it's not about the strategies and tactics, but it's about the ethics and the way you implement them
Mm-hmm.
that causes the difference between the two. And I think this speaks to and this is probably why I loved our conversation previously. I allocated 15 minutes and we're on the phone for
Right.
like
We took it like
90
an
or
hour.
something.
Right. I know.
It was fun. But this is like I connect with people like yourself because I personally feel that there is more purpose to us running a business than just purely to make money and get clicks and sign people up. And there is a level of what's the word I'm looking for? Like we've got power, there's power in what we do. And so there's responsibility in what we do.
Yes.
And it's important that we use that in a way to serve other people and make the world a better place, not just to make sales.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
at any cost. Because and the other thing is, you can have these bro marketers go, right, I'm going to make this money, then I'm going to donate some of it over here. But the thing is, if you're doing that but you're selling at any cost, you're only balancing up the negative you're putting into the world. It's not adding anything, it's just making it neutral. Right?
Right. That's a really good perspective. Well, I joke regularly based on the problems that I end up seeing in online businesses and even for my clients when they're dealing with others, whether it's their clients or other people in the online space. And I regularly say a big dose of ethics would solve the vast majority of these problems, right? And it is
Yep.
fascinating to me, even in we'll call it the spiritual guru space or the, even like the self-development, the personal development space, how frequently I see a lack of ethics happening in businesses in that space, right? So you are right that there are reasons why I think customer confidence can be really low. And for people who want to stand out and do business differently, like, I mean, first of all, I tend to connect with people who already have those ethics built into them. Like it's part of, who they are. So I end up not having to teach my own clients about ethics. But often when I'm dealing with other parties, it's like, if people would just slow down long enough to think about whether or not this is an ethical choice, they would have made a different choice.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
And the
100%.
ripple effect of that is significant, right? I think, for small businesses that worry, because I do see this as well, people thinking like, well, you just have to do it this way, or this is what I was taught in this marketing seminar, or whatever. They think that they need to follow some of these other tactics and strategies rather than doing something that feels really true to them from the start. And so they end up having painful experiences along the way, trying other people's ways to do things, right?
Yeah, and that applies whether you are getting clients or not. So obviously, if you're not getting clients, it's very obvious you're not getting
Yeah.
clients. But if you then use that, I would say it's even worse. If you use them strategies and you get clients, well, now you get clients you don't actually want to work with, and they're a
Right.
pain in the butt, and then you get refunds, or like you get it's just, and then you go, why did I even get into business?
Yes.
Maybe I should have just had a job, carried on in the job, because in reality, especially for us people who are emotionally and spiritually connected, the feeling of what we do overrides any amount of money we're ever going to make.
Oh, totally. 100%. For most of my people, it's not about the money. And, and I'm a big belief that you can build a highly ethical, sustainable business and make lots of money because you are working from connection to your purpose, to your mission, because you're doing it the right way and not the other way, right? Not like some trade-off, like, oh, if I do it this way, I'm just not going to make as much money. No, not true.
Yeah, no, 100% is not true, and it's really important you follow the way in which you follow your gut, and you follow how you want to be in the world, so we can make the world a much better place than what it is now. And I just get this sense that people are waking up, and it's still a long way to go, but people are waking up from these bro marketing strategies where this is the only course you need, and then there's an upsell. Well, if it's the only course I need, why is there an upsell?
Right. Right.
Supercharge your results. I made this much money in like 3 days. Now I'm completely aware that in my profile that you read out that there are some big claims, right? But I want to put this into context. Then people were not starting out in business. I didn't come in and get them to make 6 months income in 3 weeks with nothing.
Right.
They already had a business. They already had success. I help them tweak to go faster. And so it's really important that you see that. And the other thing about bro marketers is they don't give context. And so there's somebody I was talking to recently who potentially wants to hire my services. I don't think it will happen, but he's in this mastermind where they do ads, right? And to fill up courses and stuff. And he was telling me, he quit his job and he's doing this. He spent $1,000 a month just on the mastermind with no income. And I'm like, either you've got a crazy amount of money in the bank, or you're crazy, or both, who knows. And then he's telling me he's going to sell this online course for starting at $200 and make a ton of money. And I'm like, and I just tried to convince him otherwise, but he didn't want to listen to me because these bro marketers has got in his head. These people have done $10,000 launches, $100,000 launches, some of them 7-figure launches. I'm like, yeah, but you have no audience, you have no product, you've never sold it before, and you're selling it for $200. Do you even know what it costs to generate a lead? Because you're probably going to spend $200 generating a lead.
That's right. And what the bro marketers are not teaching people inside of their audiences, for the most part, although I'll be honest that I don't live very often inside of any of those audiences, is what it actually takes from a numbers perspective to achieve that kind of launch, right? You're not talking about like 1 or 2 JV or affiliate partners. You're talking about like dozens and dozens or hundreds of mailing partners to achieve that kind of a launch, right? And so it's, I do, which also is why I appreciate so much people who are transparent about their own business model, what it takes in their path of teaching other people what it took to get there, that they're removing the veil. They're not adding to it, right? But I think I think that can be a challenge for people to find. So out of respect for your time, a couple final questions for you.
Yes.
What is it? I'd be curious what part of your work you really love the most in
Oh,
serving your clients.
that's easy. When I hold the emotional space to help them figure through stuff,
Mm,
and when they get that clarity, they're just like, wow, like
yeah.
that's, I'm just so clear. And that bit, I absolutely love that bit because there's nothing that can replace that bit. That
Mm,
you know, once we have that conversation, they just feel like uplifted. And especially because a lot of people that I work with, they're very good at what they do.
yeah.
So because they're very good at what they do, what ends up happening is there's not many people that they can have connected real conversations with and open up their heart and their business
Mm,
in a really true way and
yes.
share it. And so I end up becoming one of them trusted, I think the
Mhm.
word might be fiduciary,
Trusted
trusted kind of
advisor. Yeah.
advisors.
Yeah.
And and they share more than that. They usually share stuff about their life as well, which is I love I love talking, so talking's fun.
Yeah. Well, and I love the way that you described that. Like I actually got goosebumps when you first described like the special piece of it actually being just the ability to hold space for having the right conversation. It does really take working with the right people to achieve that. And even the question before that, right? You're number 3 on the list, which is asking somebody why they do what they do. I have a presentation that I do, and early on in that presentation, that's a question I ask is like, not everybody becomes an entrepreneur, right? There was a point in time you either made a decision or circumstances changed or something, and you made a choice that led to you becoming an entrepreneur. You know, what was the reason you did that? Like, did you think it would be easy? Right? The answer to that is always no. Like, nobody thinks entrepreneurship is going to be easy. What, right? Well, then what is it? They think it's going to be worth it. Well, what makes it worth it? It is attached to their why they're doing, that's what makes it worth it, right? Whether it's freedom or family or being in control of their time or being able to apply their brain power in a specific way that they really enjoy doing versus being told or directed how to do that, right? So any number of things, but that I tell them that is what I protect. That is how I view my work. Is it my job to protect your ability to show up for your why every day of your life so long as you want to and do that meaningful work. That's what I protect, right?
Yeah.
But it's at the heart of everything. And even around the topic of like grit and perseverance, I think, I've had lots of discussions about that topic on the podcast, and it's a topic that I love. um, it takes really truly being and staying connected to your why to stay on the path of entrepreneurship, right? So it's a really important question, and I think one that we should be asking all the time.
Yeah, 100%. You said people get into business. So I do think there's two sets of people who get into business:
Mm.
people who know how hard it is, and then people who are optimistic. I'm gonna be honest. I was in the optimistic category when I first started in business. Oh, this will be a breeze. We just do it, and then the
That
hard work started.
happens. Do you know Jay Facette in our mastermind? I'm laughing because he
Yeah.
tells a story of thinking, when he really transitioned from running a whole bunch, and he tells this story over and over and over. I'm not sharing any secrets. Transitioning from like a live workshop in person model to the online world. He's like, I totally thought I was going to be sitting at home wearing bunny slippers and just like rolling in the dough, and I
Yeah.
laugh because
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I think a certain percentage of people do sign up for that, like with that image in mind, like, oh yeah, it can't be that hard.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's hilarious because but that's the truth. Some people do start. That was my vision: is set up a
Mhm.
business and kind of have loads of time freedom. And I actually, in my previous business, got to the point where I had not full time freedom, but I was only working half a day to a day a week,
Mm,
and so I had a lot of time freedom. And I'm gonna be honest, it was boring.
yeah.
It was unfulfilling. And I set up that business just purely to make money. I wasn't emotionally kind of doing it for the better of people. I just
Mhm.
was like, just want to make money. And I just want to be clear because we're talking about people who are connected to their purpose. it's okay to also have a business where you just want to make money, but that's probably not the people, that's probably not your core thing if you're our kind of people, because you're going to get bored of it. And that's what
Yeah.
happened to me, is I got bored because it's like, doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think not many people get, I think people either get into business knowing it's going to be hard work, or they're just optimistic like I was, and then they figure out it's hard work. And I used to have these conversations. I used to do presentation, you can work 4 hours a week and but I never used to. And there's a turning point where I was like, I need to stop selling it like this, because I didn't start a business working 4 hours a week. I started a business grinding, and then I got to a point where I was able to work 4 to 8 hours a week, which took a number of years and a lot of hard work and loads of mistakes and cost loads of money and da 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 da. And then I got there. So I think you're right. It takes a lot of hard work to build a business, and you do need that deep reason why. And when I started, I didn't really know why, but I figured it out. And now
I actually love that
it,
you mentioned that, like you figured it out along the way, because I think there's also a segment of people that think like at the start, like, well, I don't really know if this is my purpose, but I do have a particular expertise that I can share or whatever. And I've said this a couple times on the podcast. I eventually read the book Grit by Angela Duckworth. After I launched the podcast, I was like, I should probably go read that book on grit, since my podcast is named Guts, Grit, and Great Business. And I really love a point that she makes in there about like, not everybody knows their purpose. And often you start in on the work and then your purpose develops over time. You create meaning out of your work, and then you can become attached to your purpose where it's, really has a strong relationship to your work. But people shouldn't feel bad if they're just trying to figure it out.
Yeah, I agree. You don't need to feel bad, and that is, I found for me, that's the reason I pivoted so much, because if I just straight off the top of my head, I've probably had 10, 15, 20 different business ventures over the years. Like, because I'm like, well, let's try this. Oh, I made some money. Cool. But it's just doesn't quite, okay, let's try this. Let's move it. And like, you keep pivoting as you go along. And it's not, and I don't think even finding your purpose is finding your purpose is a never ending journey. Like, even once you've found I wouldn't say I found the whole of my purpose, but I found a part of it. And then it's still going to develop from here, and it gets deeper and clearer and all that kind of stuff. But you do need some why. Like, you do need some why, even at the beginning. You need to know that I want to do this, even if it's because maybe your why is I just hate my job, right? And that's not a purpose.
Yeah.
But it's a why that gets you moving forwards, because you're gonna have hard days. Like, you're gonna have days where you're like, why did I do this?
Oh yeah.
You need something that can carry you through that, so you can keep moving forward. And then eventually, at some point, you'll get to a point where you're like, I know why. And I'd say now, Heather, more than ever before, I know my why. And this is the funny thing, because my goal was always to work less, but now I know my why. I work harder than I've ever worked in my life. Like, my days, I'm like, can I fit in another 5-minute conversation here, or a little bit? Like, I'm just packing, like, where can I find a slot to do something more? Because I love it. I love it, and it serves my purpose.
Right. Yeah. Well, that is the gift of being able to create a scenario where you do work that you love, right? Which is why it's paramount that we help more people do more work that they love doing. That's my belief, is it makes the world a better place. And so, yeah. Divian, I'm so glad that we're connected. It's been so fun to chat with you today on the podcast. Where do people find you? For folks that are like, man, I need to go check out Divian's work. I need to check out, and I'm just going to mention it again, headache-free websites. Yes, please. Are you connecting primarily through your website? Do you spend time on social media? Let us know where you are.
So you can go to my website. There's also going to be another link in the show notes to a specific guide, which I only give out now and then, so it's not publicly available, which is called the 11 most effective strategies to capture more leads from your website in the next 60 days without spending more on traffic.
Mm,
So there's things in there that you can implement to get more out of your website. So the link will be in the show notes because
yep,
it's easier to just click a link than for us to read out what it is and type it in.
totally.
But you can connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. Facebook, just search Divian Mistry. I've got a green image as my image. I probably won't change it. And LinkedIn is the same. Just type in Divian Mistry or headache-free websites, and I should come up. Like it should be as
Excellent.
simple as that.
Excellent. So Divian, and thank you for that. If you're listening, be sure to pop over. You can check out Divian. You can connect with him on social media. We will share both your main website and the opt-in link for that gift. That sounds like an amazing gift. At the show notes page, which you can find at legalwebsitewarrior.com/podcast. Divian, what final either takeaway or action step would you like to leave our listeners with today?
You warned me about this at the start, and I didn't think
Right?
about it.
That's okay. It's all right.
I think that the thing that I want to leave people with is I think what we just spoke about, which is wherever you're at, you've got to keep moving forwards. Because I've had so many points in my entrepreneurial journey where I've gone, that's it, just gonna go and get a job. And I didn't. And I chose, it's not easy. It is a hard way. If you wanna make an easy income, go and get a job.
Yeah.
If you want to make a purposeful income, run a business. And it does get hard, but I promise that if you keep stuck in there and you keep changing and iterating and moving forwards and getting back up again and moving forwards, you hands down at some point you'll figure it out. And when you figure it out, you'll be like, oh, that was so close to me.
Right. Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, I hope people will hang on to that if they feel like they're currently in a hard spot. Divian, it's a joy to be connected. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Heather.